Hey everyone, Captain Dean here with Freedom Boat Club of Tampa Bay. Today we're going to go over proper anchoring. First thing we're going to do is figure out where we're going to go given our wind and our tide situation. So if you look on your phone, go into your tide charts, which you have downloaded previously, of course. If you look on the tide chart for your location, in this case Clearwater, we are currently at the vertical red line, and it says that the tide is coming in until 11:55. Okay, so the tide's coming in. I'll go on to the windy app and see what the wind will be doing later on in the day. But for the most part, it looks like it's going to be an easterly breeze today. So, in considering where I'm going to go for the day, I am going to look on my Navionics app and give it an east wind, see which is best to that little one tree island there, which on our chart, we'll zoom right in on it, is right here. Right? In that case, we would have to sit on the west side of this island. The problem with that is it gets mighty shallow over there, especially as the tide starts going back out right after a full moon like we had. It's going to be about half a foot. We'll probably get grounded. What other choices do we have with an easterly wind? I know we've got another island just down to the south here. This one right here might be a better option. I know that it's deeper on the westerly side of it than it would be on the east side where the wind is coming from. So this is ideally where the crosshairs are right now. We'd want to anchor up right there, keep the island between the wind and ourselves. That way it keeps the boat from rocking, taking on water, that kind of thing. Okay, so here we are. We've reached the marker for our turnoff that we've seen on the chart. Our island is right over there to our starboard side. So let's head on over. At this point, I already know that the water in this area is shallow on the southeast side of the island. I can see it with my polarized sunglasses. So when we start getting into the shallower water, we'll bring the engine down to a crawl so we don't hit anything, damage the prop and possibly the lower unit. Okay, we're off the island. At this point, we are going to get our anchors ready, prep them out. You want to get your anchors all set up so that there's nothing tangled. You want to get the proper anchor at each end of the boat. So in this case, we've got our primary anchor at the stern, our secondary anchor at the bow. The secondary anchor would be the smaller one. We've got the anchor lines in the buckets so we know that they're not tangled up. And we're going to approach the island nice and cautiously and try and get a good spot where the wind won't do us too much harm. So once we've got ourselves lined up, going into the island the way we want, we're just going to throw the primary anchor into the deeper water in case the wind changes later. We're going to just let that slide through our hands as we get closer and closer to the island. Now, as we get to the right spot to our island, we're just going to tie this line off. And we're going to head up to get our secondary anchor and walk it right up onto the beach and plug it in the ground. Let's not forget that as we get closer and closer to the sand, we're going to use our trim tilt button here on the throttle handle, push the up side, and begin moving our engine up a little bit out of the water. That's about as high as you ever want to get, right there, to where the cavitation plate is almost to the top of the water. That'll give us a few more inches as we come in nice and slow to the beach. Now when we get to a point where we're close enough, we're happy that we can jump off safely and get onto the beach, we'll go ahead and grab our secondary anchor and head off to the island. So here we have it. We have our anchor to the island, tied off to the bow cleat. We've got our stern anchor tied off here and off about 50 feet into the deeper water. Now, if the tide or wind changes throughout the day, we are good. We can let the boat go further out if the tide is getting lower by loosening that and tightening that, or vice versa. We can bring it in a little bit. But at this point, we're good for the day, so we can just shut off our engine and have a great time. All right, so now we've had our fun for the day. We're headed back to the marina. We're gonna go get our anchor. First things first, everybody gets on board and gets situated and gets seated. The captain, whomever that might be, can start the engine. Right? Our engine is still tilted up so we don't hit the bottom. We're in a deep enough part of the water so that we don't do any damage there. Next thing we're gonna do is go get this anchor. So last man on board goes for that. Don't let the boat get away from you. The wind will try and push it away from you. Obviously, that's why you're anchored in the first place. Get that up on board, and then get yourself up on board next. All right, get that island anchor into the boat so it doesn't hang off and get tangled in the prop on the way out. So at this point, the wind is blowing us away from the island already, right? It's working in our favor. So now we can head back towards the stern anchor. If the wind were coming the opposite direction and pushing us towards the island, we'd get the captain, helmsman, to just sort of reverse us down and get that anchor. But since the wind is pushing us towards it already, this will be no problem. We'll just collect this anchor line right here and start putting it in the bucket, nice and easy. Once again, make sure all of your guests are out of the way of these anchors. They are heavy and they can hurt. All right, we're clear. And at this point, we are ready to go again. So we'll just take it away from the island. We can put our engine back down using the trim and tilt button on the downside. Once it gets all the way down, we'll head out. All right, guys, well, that's a happy day of anchoring. See you next time.